Spring's well on its way, so today I am dividing and spreading the comfrey plants. Now, we use 3 different types here on the Croft, and they've all got slightly different uses for slightly different contexts. So I thought I'd bring the camera along and show you what we've got and what we use it for. This is the first of the comfreys we use. This is a wild one that I took some root cuttings a couple of years ago and we've been propagating it ever since. It's one we found out in maybe 7-8 miles away. So yeah, it's one that's naturally adapted to the environment, so it's doing really well. As I say, this lot we only put in last year, and you can see already there's a little one there, there's another little one, here's another one, and they're all along, but they've also got competition from dock and things like that. So you can see the old dock stems and stuff. Now this is the strip that's opposite the house. The house is behind me, and this is a windbreak. You can see there's the Elaeagnus ebbingi, that's the Ebbing silverberry. That's the mainstay of this particular block, and we've got other things. There's a hawthorn there that is a slightly older tree. Well, that's a very old tree. But eventually, as these get divided and spread up, we'll move them all the way across this bank, and they'll outcompete everything else, more or less. And it gives us, yeah, you can see just how much of it there is. And it'll give us a crop that we can come through and just harvest a load of fertility from. But with the track one side and the field the other, it can't expand its range too far. I wouldn't put this in around the tree systems on the inside of the Croft because I don't want it to spread too far, and this stuff does tend to spread quite prolifically because it will produce seed. But you can see just how well it's done, and these are just cuttings that went in here last year. There's loads of them. So yeah, that's the first one that we use. It's phenomenal stuff. So yeah, we can come through, we can chop it down, we can rot it down in water and get fertilizer from it. We can use it as a chop and drop, and eventually it'll be all throughout this system. It'll be feeding things like this. So it's a really useful plant, and yeah, because even here little ones are just starting to come through, whereas the dock has got a bit more of a head start, but not for much longer. So to duplicate it, all I have to do is come in and cut it like that, and that's been sliced off under the ground. You can see where that's been cut there, so the root is still in the ground. That'll come up as another plant, and I can put this out now as simple as, let me show you, a hole like that, shove that down, and that's it, new comfrey plant. And I can keep doing that to every 1, 2, 3 times every year, and yeah, before we know it, we'll have all the comfrey that we need. This is dwarf comfrey. It's something missold to me. I was sold these as Bocking 14, which it really isn't. So even though it's not what I wanted, I'm making use of it anyway because it's an amazing variety. I'm really pleased with it. It's just I don't want it here. See, this is one of the swiles. This is where we're eventually growing biomass willow. So yeah, I don't really want this here. So eventually I'll have to take it out permanently, but in the meantime, I'm still wanting more and more of it. So I'm going to dig all of this lot up here. Now I won't get all of it, some of it will stay, and it'll just come back even more aggressively. That's fine, I'll just take even more. So I'm going to harvest all this now, and you'll see how much comes off it. There'll be a load of plants off this. So with all that patch clear, and that's just, you know, I've only gone down a few inches, there'll still be a huge amount of root mat below the surface, and that'll come back and give me even more plants I can take before the end of the year. But you can see how much there is. I mean, there's masses of it. And then there's things like that. I mean, that could be broken down into 3, 4, 5 root fragments easily, and each of them will come back as a separate plant. So right, I'll show you where these are going. So this is more or less where it's going, all around this area. Now, each of these last year, about this time last year, was a little tiny root cutting or a little tiny start, and you can see just how much they're starting to push the grass back. You know, they're really starting to take over, and they will eventually outcompete all the grasses. You can see just how many of them there are. It really spreads really nicely, and there's, you know, a large area is being given over to this. It's spread so aggressively. I'm going to make use of it, so you can see just how much of it there is. You know, it's a beautiful, beautiful plant. All of this area has got trees growing in it, and there'll be a lot more yet. And this lot specifically, that is Siberian pea shrub. We've got morello. Where are we? In fact, I'll show you. We've got morello cherry. That's what these ones here are. They're just starting to come on, and all of these are ones that we can take a certain amount for ourselves, but anything that drops will be for the poultry to eat. So you can see where the chickens are just now. They're up there, and they're doing their thing through that system. But by the time this system matures, there'll be strips, maybe 3 or 4 of them, that will be able to alternate bringing the chickens through, and they'll take the comfrey down. They'll eat a certain amount of that, and they'll also self-forage from the land itself. And yeah, as I say, that's a morello. That is a monkey puzzle, that one. So that's not something that I'll probably be getting much from myself, but subsequent generations will. And there's a lot more to come in down here as well. But the understory, one of the main players in that is going to be, you see, there's the Siberian pea shrub. That's one of the very best self-forage species for chickens. But also, we'll have the comfrey as an understory. I can also come through, of course, and I can scythe it, and I can take a load as fertiliser, just to, you know, shuffle fertility around. But it's not going to take too long. I mean, you can see, it's not going to take too long before this has outcompeted the grass completely. And of course, it's also bee forage. And you see these, they're just starting to come through the grass now. And then ones that were a bit better established last year, you can see how well they've done. So yeah, that is the dwarf comfrey. And this is just one batch. I've got another 2 or 3 plants like this to dig up yet. So yeah, in a couple of years, this should be pretty much all comfrey with an overstory of trees. Now, this is the last of the 3 comfreys. Now this is the Bocking 14. It's not a seed producing one, it's self-fertile, so it doesn't spread too aggressively. And what we're using this for is, you can see these ones here are under this tree here. Now, this is a Bardsey apple. This is a gift, this one, from a very good friend. So yeah, what we're doing, instead of having to put mulch down all the time, you can see we've got, you know, a bit of animal bedding, and below that we've got wood chip. But yeah, there's still grass competition. You can see it's starting to come in around the edges. So what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to take my hoary type thing, take that down through there, and then, hang on, this might not be easy one-handed. I cut it like, yeah. It's so much easier with a tripod. And then, no, that's still not come. Hang on, I don't want to smash it up too badly. There we go, that should do it. So you can see down in there just how big that root is. It carries on. But now I can take this section here and, well, I think I can. Come on. Wow, that's very dense. And I'll take, there we go. You can see I'll get another couple out of that yet. And I'll take that as a root section, and that's a really good healthy plant. And you can see where there's a little one there, but there are a few little gaps, and I'll fill them in. So by the time the tree is completely encircled with comfrey, that'll outcompete any grasses. And the other thing I can do is, when this comes up to about yay high, I can come through and I can push that over, and that'll, until it just snaps a little bit at the base, and it'll then come up at a wider angle. It'll cover a bigger area, and it'll outcompete the grasses. And then I can come through, not in its first year, so I won't do it again now, but by next year this tree will be completely encircled with comfrey, and they'll all be doing really well. And I can come through a couple of times a year and I can just chop and drop that, and that'll feed the plant and it'll all regenerate. So it's a mulch plant, so I haven't got to worry about adding mulch all the time. It's something I can use to add fertiliser to it, so I never have to add any of that externally. So fertilising the plants just means literally walking around and just chop and drop them all a couple of times a year. And that'll give all the fertility that we need for keeping these trees healthy and giving us good crops. So yeah, this is, I think, a real powerhouse of a plant. This is one we're going to use extensively, and most of our fruit trees have got comfrey around the base. Not all of them just yet, some of the newer ones don't, so we're having to rely on wood mulches still for them. But within a couple of years we'll have enough of this, and you can see just how much of it there is. It spreads really well, but it's fairly contained as long as you don't come around and do this. The minute you start doing this, you're going to get a lot more plants. So yeah, it's a really useful plant. You can expand it as much or as little as you like, and yeah, serves a whole load of uses. In fact, let me show you. So this is a blackcurrant, this is a bentiran, and you can see I've done the same there. So that'll be divided as well today, and that'll be put around, and the same thing will apply. So yeah, that's very, very cool. It's doing really well. I'm pleased with that. So yeah, that is the Bocking 14, and that's where we are using it.